Hi everyone, it's great to be back on this channel. I know I've been absent again, but I've been trying to keep up with content on my other channel and it's just, it just wasn't working having the two channels. But now I've got some more time during the day, so I'm hoping to be on this channel a lot more regularly. And we need to keep up with what's going on with Diddy. This is what I've been planning on doing this whole time. As soon as I started researching this person and looking into just a fraction of what he is responsible for, or allegedly responsible for, I think many of us have been waiting for this day, for him to finally be held accountable, for him to finally get his comeuppance, so to speak. And it appears that the depths of depravity, we weren't even close to getting the full picture. And now it's all coming out. So he is currently in jail. He was refused bail. Maybe they considered him a flight risk. Who knows? Before you know it, he may have been ended up in Thailand or somewhere. So we're going to look into the indictment, go through it, and we're going to get a little glimpse into life in jail. You know, jail's going to be a huge adjustment for him, I would assume. Or maybe he'll be right at home. Who knows? So let's get into it. So Sean Diddy Combs is now a criminal defendant in an trafficking, racketeering, and kidnapping case, after a grand jury indicted him. This according to official documents. Diddy has been charged with 3 counts, racketeering conspiracy, trafficking by force. So here it is, 14 pages. Wow, this is quite damning. For decades, Sean Combs, aka, there's a lot of AKAs, Puff Daddy, aka, P. Diddy, aka, Diddy, PD, Love. Oh yeah, don't forget Brother Love. So, in all seriousness, it says the defendant abused, threatened, and coerced women and others around him to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. To do so, Combs relied on employees, resources, and influence of the multifaceted business empire that he had led and controlled, creating a criminal enterprise whose members and associates engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, trafficking, forced labour, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. So, Sean Combs and all the AKAs, the defendant operated his business headquartered at various times in Manhattan and Los Angeles under a variety of United States-based corporate entities, including Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprises, and Combs Global, collectively the Combs business, corporate entities. So yeah, you get the idea. So yeah, he had an apparel line, alcoholic spirits business, a marketing agency, and even a television network and media company. So yeah, they're saying that he engaged in a persistent and pervasive pattern of abuse towards women and other individuals. This abuse was at times verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual. As part of his pattern of abuse, Combs manipulated women to participate in highly orchestrated performances of sexual activity with male commercial sex workers. At times, Combs and others acting at his direction made arrangements for women and commercial workers to fly to Combs's location. Combs ensured participation from the women by, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support, and threatening to cut off the same, and using intimidation and violence. It has been put out there that perhaps, drugs were used to control his girlfriends and the women who were, part of this trafficking. Drugs was a big part of that. And also, he would promise them many things, helping them with their career, and also promised to take it all away if they didn't comply. So 4, physical abuse. So the defendant was reoccurrent and widely known on numerous occasions from at least in or about 2009 and continuing for years. Combs assaulted women by, among other things, striking, punching, dragging, throwing objects at, and kicking them. There was that report in Rolling Stone. There was a woman from his college days. People witnessed his violence towards women. These assaults were at times witnessed by others and included one instance at a Los Angeles hotel in or about March 2016. So we've all seen that video. I'm assuming this is in relation to Cassie, which was captured on video and later publicly reported, where Combs kicked, dragged, and threw a vase at a woman as she was attempting to leave. When a member of the hotel security staff intervened, Combs attempted to bribe the staff member to ensure silence. Remember, this video just resurfaced, and we can only come to the conclusion that it was hidden all that time because he had paid people off for their silence. So how many more things have been hidden as a result of him paying people off? And this was something that was on video, as clear as day. And even that managed to keep, under wraps for all those years. Combs's violence was also not limited to these women. It extended to his employees, witnesses to his abuse, and others. So the defendant used the Combs business, including certain employees, to carry out, facilitate, and cover up his abuse and commercial sex. Those employees, including security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors and other close associates, acted as Combs's intermediaries, and their conduct was facilitated and assisted by Combs's control of the Combs business. Now, when I'm reading this, I'm remembering Shine the rapper. He was a very young man who ended up going to prison for like 9 years. Diddy used Shine to cover his own back for 9 years. And then there's reports saying that the person who was holding the gun was allegedly Combs. The witness, the woman who was shot in the face, came forward and said that he was the one holding the gun. Diddy. Was it Johnny Cochran? He had the best legal team. And even Shine said, even if you want to defend yourself, that's fine. But don't sabotage me. It wasn't enough just to defend himself. He threw Shine under the bus too. Had witnesses saying that it was Shine who was holding the gun and all of this. Or saying that it was Shine who was reckless, started shooting up the place. But the woman who got shot in the face, she has come forward and said it was Diddy.
Yeah, and you have said since really right after the shooting that it was P. Diddy who shot you. I think you even said it to the doctor that night, right?
I said it immediately. I literally watched them pull out the guns. I've had a clear point of view. For God's sake, I got shot in my nose. I was facing them directly. I watched everything occur and have described it, vehemently to all parties involved. I think in our society, we have respectability politics. There are people who want to be adjacent to power or celebrity or money, and there's a hierarchy of respectability. Because his name was more notable, he was believed rather than a victim who gave a first-hand account. By the grace of God, I survived.
So 2008, I believe that was the time he was dating Cassie. And this is probably the earliest they can trace back a lot of these allegations. Sure, it started a lot sooner than that. So the defendant and others, known and unknown, were members and associates of a criminal organization, Combs Enterprise or the Enterprise. Members and associates of the Combs Enterprise engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other activities, trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, coercion, and enticement to engage in prostitution, narcotic offences, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. The Combs Enterprise, including its leadership, its members, and its associates. These individuals, part of this enterprise, included certain Combs business employees, such as members of Combs's security staff. And, person who springs to mind is Eugene Dill. Obviously, he's got a lot of stories to tell. Household staff, personal assistants, and high-ranking supervisors, as well as other close associates of Combs. The purpose of the Combs Enterprise including the following. So operating a global business in the media, entertainment, and lifestyle industries, including other things, record labels, a recording studio, and an apparel line. So this was the legitimate side of the business. Then that was all a cover-up for what he was really engaging in: preserving, protecting, promoting, and enhancing the power, reputation, and brand of Sean Combs. And this is why he's had so many name changes. This is why he changed his name to Diddy after the whole incident in the nightclub where Shine ended up going to prison. Soon after that, it was Diddy. And then we had the brother love, and that's my favourite one. Enticing members and associates of the enterprise, including its leaders, and in particular those who demonstrated loyalty to Combs and willingness to conceal his crimes. I mean, how many more people are going to be indicted as a result of this? I mean, he may very well start singing like a canary and, snitching like crazy, making all sorts of deals. Who else is going to be implicated as a result? So this is all about him protecting his brand. I think it was Eugene. He said that he can't have white people see him as a gangster. He has to be seen as a businessman, something like that. And even when it came to Biggie, Eugene says that, allegedly, Sean Combs, he was like, well, even if Biggie has to die, I don't care. Something to that effect. Like, he didn't care that night that Biggie's life was in danger. And Eugene was like, Biggie? Wow.
And which he said, no one could be bigger than me on Bad Boy label. When he said, and for the sake of the internet, I'm not going to use profanity. I don't give a F if Pac gotta die, Big gotta die, or should not go to jail. When he said that, that was a self-fulfilling prophecy.
So enabling Combs and other members and associates of the Combs enterprise to engage in unlawful acts of violence. All of those, what we've already read. Well, so page 6 says, Combs and other members and associates of the Combs enterprise wielded the power and prestige of Combs' role at the Combs business to intimidate, threaten, and lure female victims into Combs' orbit, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. Now, this is getting to the part. Whew. So Combs then used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended S acts with male commercial S workers that Combs referred to as, among other things, freak-offs were elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, pleasured himself during, and often electronically recorded. In arranging these freak-offs, Combs, with the assistance of members and associates of the Combs enterprise, transported and caused to be transported commercial S workers across state lines and internationally. Freak-offs occurred regularly, sometimes lasted multiple days, and often involved multiple commercial S workers. During freak-offs, Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances to victims, in part to keep the victims obedient and compliant. Sometimes, unbeknownst to the victims, Combs kept videos he filmed of victims engaging in S acts with commercial S workers. After freak-offs, Combs and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and drug use.
My mom's gorgeous. Let me introduce you to my mom, called Mom Dukes.
Hi.
She's getting a drip with me. She's hydrated. What's up, Mom?
Good, baby. Happy New Year.
Yeah.
I love
Love you too. Mom, freshly dipped though.
So that was him taking a IV with his mum. So, it seems that he's something that he does. It's not out of the ordinary for him to take IV fluids, like he's taking vitamins or drinking a glass of water. So members and associates of the Combs enterprise, including high-ranking supervisors, security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and other Combs business employees facilitated the freak-offs by, among other things, booking hotel rooms for the freak-offs, stocking the hotel room in advance with the required freak-off supplies, including controlled substances, baby oil, lubricant, extra linens, and lighting. It's just nasty. Cleaning the hotel rooms after the freak-offs to try to mitigate room damage. Arranging for travel for victims, commercial S workers, and Combs to and from freak-offs. Resupplying Combs with requested supplies, delivering large sums of cash to Combs to pay the commercial S workers, and scheduling the delivery of IV fluids. In or about March 2024, during searches of Combs' residences in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized various freak-off supplies, including narcotics and more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant. Now, I was curious as to what they were looking for during these raids. I was wondering if they were going to uncover videos, because I can see him keeping all that stuff. Because, sick man. But I guess they've got the supplies of the freak-offs. Obviously, in court, his legal team's just going to argue he likes to stay moisturized and doesn't want to run out of supplies for that. But who knows? Obviously, that's not all they have. They have witnesses. The Combs subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse to cause the victims to engage in freak-offs. Can you imagine he manipulated people and coerced them with perhaps threats? You don't do this, then your career is over. It's the coercion. It's the power that he had over people. Using his level of power, his level of success, his money, his wealth. I'm sure a lot of people felt helpless to break away from this. So Combs maintained control over his victims through, among other things, physical violence, promises of career opportunities, granting and threatening to withhold financial support, and by other coercive means. Shit! Where did it go? And by other coercive means, including tracking their whereabouts, dictating the victim's appearance, monitoring their medical records, controlling their housing, and supplying them with controlled substances. This is absolutely horrendous. I mean, this is the very definition of S trafficking, where you convince somebody that there's no way that they can survive without you. And if you want to continue to be supported, you're going to have to do as I say. You're going to have to engage in these activities, or you will be thrown out on your ear, basically. Imagine young, impressionable girls who are trying to survive in New York City, for example, and are used to a certain lifestyle. Many of them may have felt they had no option, especially with the threats, the violence, the drugs. During and separate from freak-offs, Combs, among other things, hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims at times by their hair. These assaults often resulted in injuries that took days or weeks to heal. Combs also threatened victims' careers and livelihoods, including if they resisted participating in freak-offs. Victims believed they could not refuse Combs' demands without risking their financial or job security or without repercussions in the form of physical or emotional abuse. Combs also used the sensitive, embarrassing, and incriminating recordings that he had made during freak-offs as collateral to ensure the continued obedience and silence of the victims. That's another tactic they use. I'm going to show these photos, these videos to your parents. They literally threaten the victims with that sort of exposure. I'm going to expose you. And at some point they become culpable in this activity, and they believe that if Diddy's exposed, they're going to be exposed. So they go along with it, and then I guess, they get used to the lifestyle, and they think, maybe, I have to do all of this, but I get a nice lifestyle, I might get a career, But it's all coercion, it's all manipulation, it's to keep them under his control. Wow, so Members of the Combs enterprise, they carried firearms. On more than one occasion, Combs himself carried or brandished firearms to intimidate and threaten others, including victims of and witnesses to his abuse. In or about March 2024, during searches of Combs' residences in Miami, Florida, LA, law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 AR-15s with defaced serial numbers, wow, as well as a drum magazine. And these obviously weren't legal weapons then. So yeah, they witnessed his violence towards other victims, and obviously that would put fear into them. They didn't want the same thing to happen to them. They witnessed the victims' injuries caused by Combs without intervening. Instead, members and associates of the Combs enterprise helped conceal the violence and abuse by, among other things, assisting Combs in monitoring and preventing victims from leaving locations. You know, victims being told to stay in hiding until their bruises recover. Don't go out in public with a black eye or whatever. And the same was said about Kim Porter. She was sent away to recover and hidden from the public. I believe Eugene spoke about an occasion where that happened.
It was the same thing Kim was going through. The same thing, bro. Kim was going through the same thing. The beatings, you know what I'm saying?
So when it comes to the kidnapping, you know, perhaps this was when victims tried to escape. He would find them and bring them back. That's what I can deduce from that. So they said Combs and his associates and employees, they combined, conspired, confederated and agreed together and with each other to violate the racketeering laws of the United States. Kidnappings mentioned again, and multiple acts involving arson, chargeable under the following provisions of state law: forced labor, tampering with a witness, methamphetamine. We know these substances mentioned here. It was a part of the conspiracy that Sean Combs, the defendant, agreed that a conspirator would commit at least 2 acts of racketeering activity in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs enterprise. It sounds like if you worked for him, you were drawn into that world and are probably culpable in a lot of these activities. Okay, and it goes on to talk about his assets, his property. So he's at the MDC Brooklyn. He's locked up in a federal jail that's held plenty of famous people, but is also about as far from the lap of luxury as the embattled mogul's been in at least 30 years. So he's held without bail. The feds shipped him to Alta, the Lower Manhattan Federal Courthouse, and off to Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, a facility notorious for its brutal, sometimes fatal conditions. So it's been the temporary home to several celebs, including R. Kelly, Fetty Wap, Michael Cohen, Alison Mack, and Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, Diddy will be settling into his new surroundings, a horrifically stark difference from his Miami and LA mansion lifestyle. Federal judges have called out the Bureau of Prisons for alleged inhumane conditions at the facility, and back in June, an inmate was murdered there. Then there's the food. So the meal plan has dinner options slated with meals like turkey roast or tofu, with rice, boiled potatoes, beets, and whole wheat bread, with a beverage, which sure as hell ain't a fine Italian wine. It's a far cry from Diddy's normal diet, which we hear typically includes things like duck, steak, organic veggies, shrimp, salmon, crab, and cheese platters. Finally, it has happened. He's in jail. So we shall see what comes of this. It looks like this has been a long time coming, and I'm here for it. I'm here to see how this progresses. Is he going to be locked up until trial? And is that going to be it? So let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.